Has God done a new work in your life recently? Do you feel as if you've come out of sin and into relationship with Jesus? This Easter, we're going to celebrate resurrection power, the power that raised Jesus from the dead. We're going to celebrate that same power being at work in us. That's why we're excited to host baptisms on Easter, is to celebrate this new creation life. Now, baptism for us is not something you do in order to be saved, but it's this outward sign of what God's grace has given you through the cross. You've come to new life, into relationship with God. And we want this Easter to be a marking moment, a moment where you get to celebrate with your church family and with your friends and family the new creation work that God has done in you. So if you feel that Jesus has brought you to new life, you've come into new relationship with God, we would love for you to be baptized this Easter with us. If that's you, if you're interested, or if you're curious, if this could be you, if you qualify for baptism, or if baptism is a step that you should take, then I encourage you, go to your app, sign up for the baptism class on your Church Center app, or go to your house church leader and let them know that God may be leading you to take this step of faith, to make this movement of baptism. We'd love to baptize you this Easter. Get on the app or talk to your house church leader. Thanks.
Hey everyone, hope you are having a wonderful house church gathering this morning. So last week, Richard introduced us to our Encounters with Jesus series with the story of Nathanael and what happens when our skepticism and doubt are met with the love of Jesus. What happens when we encounter Jesus. And that's what we're exploring in this series. And this week, I'm excited to discuss with you the wedding at Cana. This is the story of Jesus' first miracle and the launch of his ministry. This is in John chapter 2. But first, let's talk about the Mona Lisa. Yes, the Mona Lisa, widely considered the masterpiece by Renaissance artist and inventor Leonardo da Vinci. And the Mona Lisa hangs in the Louvre Museum in Paris. And this portrait is just so famous and such an icon in art history for the skill, the methodology, the mystery of it, a lot of intrigue. And perhaps you've seen on social media, maybe you've gotten the opportunity to see it for yourself. But you may have heard that when you go to the Louvre, everyone is pushing through these giant galleries, these enormous spaces, just to get to see the Mona Lisa. But when you get to the room, you're met with something quite surprising. Dozens and dozens of people are pressed up against each other and against the rope just to get to see the Mona Lisa from far away. It's this tiny painting. It maybe is 30 inches tall. And people are like shoulder to shoulder. There's really no room. Their phones are up in the air trying to just zoom in and get a picture of this Mona Lisa because you're that far away and you just want to capture that famous Mona Lisa smile. But if you take a step back from the crowd and you turn around, you realize that behind you, directly across from the Mona Lisa, is a 32-foot wide, 22-foot tall canvas. It's huge. And this canvas is The Wedding at Cana by Italian Renaissance artist Paolo Veronese, painted in 1563. It's this wild, chaotic, overflowing scene, and right in the middle of this 32 by 22 foot canvas is Jesus, sitting in the middle of the table, looking straight out, looking right at you if you're looking at the painting. But what's crazy is that almost nobody turns around. Many people miss it. Now, I love Renaissance religious art. My wife is listening to this, watching this, and probably will roll her eyes because I do nerd out about Renaissance art. Really because it makes me laugh how they paint themselves into ancient Jewish stories. The robes, the architecture, the hairstyles, none of this is historically accurate to the stories of the Bible. You will probably have seen, the odd, looking babies that are meant to depict Jesus and his mother, the famous Madonna paintings of the Renaissance. None of it is historically accurate, but they do something brilliant. They paint Jesus into their world. The Renaissance artists, I think, were asking, what would it look like if Jesus really showed up here in our century, 1,500 years after he lived, at our tables, in our mess, at our celebrations? And that is exactly the point John is making throughout his gospel. Before the wedding at Cana in chapter 2, we read in chapter 1 how Jesus is the Word made flesh. He came to live among us as one of us. John, through the gospel, is showing us what it looks like when the love of God, through his Son, steps into our reality. And then John wastes no time showing us what that actually looks like. There's a baptism, the great baptism of Jesus. There's the calling of the disciples. And then, of all places, Jesus shows up at a wedding in a small town with ordinary people. In other words, the painting and like the story is that Jesus doesn't stay distant. He steps right into our world, our culture, our celebrations, and even our moments of shame. And at Cana, he takes a situation that could have been humiliating and so shameful, and he covers it with grace by meeting the need. To understand the story of the wedding at Cana, we have to understand the ancient Jewish culture and the Jewish weddings of the time. There's two basic concepts that I want to talk about. The first one is that in ancient Jewish culture, and to this day in many parts of the Middle East, hospitality was everything. You had to be a gracious, generous, over-the-top host. It reflected that you were Jewish, that you were a part of the people of God. This was just integral to your worldview. This is how you interacted with people. It was embedded in your worldview about how you viewed other people. The second concept is this, that in that world, weddings were community-wide feasts that lasted for days. The entire village would come out and celebrate. It was a massive gathering. And the bride and groom, especially the bridegroom's family, were expected to accommodate and to abundantly provide. And so running out of wine wasn't just inconvenient. It was a humiliating breach of hospitality that could actually mark the couple with shame for years. So like imagine if you're at a wedding or at a birthday party. How many have gone to a wedding or a birthday party just because you know there's going to be cake? I'm guilty of that. So then imagine if someone announces in the middle of the celebration, oh my gosh, we forgot the cake, there's no cake. It's hard for us to really think about an equivalent. Maybe the caterer doesn't show up at the wedding. Or maybe you run out of food at a family gathering, or maybe the Thanksgiving turkey runs out before half the people get to eat it at the celebration. But the shame that would have been built into this situation is quite hard for us to understand because that culture was a shame-honor culture. You did everything, you viewed everything based on shame or honor. So it is understandable with Mary knowing how bad this was, how shameful this would be if there wasn't any more wine at this wedding, that she goes to her son in verse 3 and reports that they have no more wine. Jesus, the way he responds here seems kind of sassy, and I don't know that I would ever talk to my mother that way. But some of it may actually be lost in translation, but he essentially says to her, this doesn't concern us. But in verse 4, he adds something. He says, my hour has not yet come. In other words, he might be saying, this is not how I intended to launch my ministry. But something we know about Jesus is other times he refers to his hour. He's talking about his death. He's talking about the sacrifice, the revelation of the Son of God, the Lamb of God on the cross. I think that one of the great revelations of this text is this, that miracles like turning water into wine are not just momentary interventions. They reveal to us something about the nature of a loving God who knows how to provide for his children. Verse 11 calls it a sign, not a miracle, a sign. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and the disciples believed in him. It's a sign through which he revealed his glory. If this was the first sign, then how did Mary know that Jesus could do something about the wine? It is apparent to me that Mary trusted in Jesus and his ability to meet the need, his nature. Not that he could do it, but that it was in his nature to do it. I think it's that she understood something about his nature, that he was worthy of trusting, of being trusted. Because when we think about miracles, when we think about the things that Jesus did, and when we think about the things that Jesus does, that God does for us, it's really easy to move into a transactional relationship with God, where you're just thinking about the moment-to-moment need. But when you become transactional, it's actually hard to trust, because you're trusting a transaction, you're trusting an act, not a way. The ways of God, not the acts of God. When you know his nature, it is harder to be moved by circumstance, and you know that you can bring the need before him, and it is in his loving nature to move on our behalf. St. Augustine of Hippo lived in the 4th and 5th century. He's one of the most influential theologians in early Christianity, just 400, 500 years after Christ's death and resurrection. He wrote this: "For even as that which the servants put into the water pots was turned into wine by the doing of the Lord, so in like manner also is what the clouds pour forth changed into wine by the doing of the same Lord. But we do not wonder at the latter, because it happens every year. It has lost its marvelousness by its constant recurrence." The difference at Cana is not that Jesus did something unnatural. It's that he did in a moment what he normally would have done slowly over time. In other words, the miracle at Cana is not just about power. It's not just about the miracle. It's about revelation. It's about seeing who Jesus is. He's the one who quietly sustains creation, the one who ripens the grape on the vine, the one who brings joy from the earth. He is sitting at the table with us. And when he acts, it is never random. It is always full of meaning. Now, there's a line in this story that feels almost understated, but I think it's one of the most important lines of the whole passage. Mary looks at the servants and says, "Do whatever he tells you." She doesn't argue, she doesn't explain, she doesn't strategize, she simply trusts. And that's fascinating because at this point in John's gospel, again, Jesus hadn't done any miracles yet. There's no track record, no public resume, just a mother who maybe pondered these things for years in her heart. Do whatever he tells you to do. I think, friends, that encounters with the love of Jesus leads us to obedience. When we understand his nature, when we understand that miracles are not just for the moment, but they reveal something about who Jesus is. They reveal his love. When we encounter that love, I think then we're led into obedience. And this isn't a fear-based obedience. It's not shame-driven obedience. It's love-shaped obedience. And notice what he tells them to do. There are 6 stone jars there, jars used for Jewish rites of purification. And John makes sure that we notice the number 6. In Scripture, 6 often represents incompleteness. Humanity was created on the 6th day. It's the number of effort, of striving, of almost but not quite. 6 jars. An incomplete celebration with the wine gone. A wedding that is missing its joy. And Jesus tells them, fill the jars with water. It's not glamorous. It's not dramatic. It's heavy work. These jars would have held maybe 20 to 30 gallons each. This is slow obedience. Do what he tells you. Slow obedience. Quiet obedience. Trust. And when they obey, when they simply do what he tells them to do, something happens. He completes what was incomplete. He fills what was empty. He turns the water meant for ritual purification into wine that is meant for celebration. The best wine for the end. When we obey, Jesus completes that which we cannot by ourselves. He completes our lives not by removing our effort, but by redeeming it. Our response to his love is obedience. So I had a experience in college where I had just a deep sense of the Lord highlighting a guy I knew. I didn't know him very well, but I just had the sense that he needed prayer. And I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't necessarily want to go right up to him and say, hey, God wanted me to pray for you. If it was of the Lord, I wanted him to orchestrate it, but I also didn't want to skirt obedience. If he was telling me to do it, then I would do it. As I'm thinking about this, and I'm just having a conversation about something else with a friend in my dorm room, this guy walks in through the door, and I'm just kind of shocked. And I look at him and I said, hey, I'm supposed to pray for you. And he's like, yeah, that's why I came in here, which is wild. And I just said, do you need healing for something? I feel like maybe you might need healing for something. I didn't know this, but he ends up saying that he was deaf in one ear. And so I'm just shocked because now I'm just terrified. I'm like, okay, I'm pray for this ear and it isn't healed. What is this all about? This is crazy. This looks foolish. And this feels impossible. And I just say to him, okay, well, let's pray for your ear. Let's just see what God will do. And I tried to give so many qualifiers and so many we don't know what's going to happen. Let's just have faith. I was just trying so hard to protect my shame and not be on the hook for something here. And so my friend and I gather around him and we just pray and we lay our hands on his ear. And we, at the time, my friend and I just had kind of ambient music in very low volume to the right of this person. So on the side of the ear that he couldn't hear. And as we're praying and just asking God for healing and believing God for healing, something just happens in his body where he just kind of gasps and jumps up and looks around and he looks to his right and says, was that music playing the whole time? And we all looked at each other and thought, yeah. And he said, I wasn't hearing it when I first came in here. And so we just were just shocked and in unbelief and disbelief, just jumping with joy, saying, wait, are you serious? You couldn't hear that before? And he's like, yeah, I couldn't hear it before and I can hear it now. And so we were just snapping on his fingers, trying to test, did God really restore your hearing? Oh my gosh. And he could hear perfectly. So we prayed and thanked God. But I walked away from that really shaken because I realized actually how afraid I was to obey, to do what the Lord had told me to do. And sometimes it haunts me, the question haunts me, what if I hadn't? It wasn't me, I didn't do it. My friend who prayed alongside me didn't do it either. It was the Lord. But in this story, we see these servants who just do what Jesus tells them to do. And on the other side of that is a miracle. Our response to his love is obedience. And obedience becomes the doorway to joy. Now, those jars weren't decorative. They were there for washing, for ritual cleansing, for purity according to Jewish law. If you know anything about Jewish laws, that there were so many rules, so many laws to follow, and a lot of them had to do with dealing with uncleanliness. Managing the reality that we are not as clean as we should be. And so Jesus takes those jars, the symbols of purification, of the ritual of needing to be clean and present oneself as clean before the Lord. But instead of water, he fills them with something new. Because this miracle wasn't just about saving a party. It's about revealing what he came to do. The old system required constant washing, constant effort, constant reminders that you were not clean enough and you would never be. But with this, we see that Jesus would soon pour out not wine, but his own blood. When his hour would come, it wouldn't be wine. It would be his own blood. And it would be blood that would be poured out not to expose our shame, but to cover it. not to reduce us down to our sin and to our struggle and to our lack, but to redeem us, to pay for all of that. And not barely enough, but abundantly. There were 120 to 180 gallons of wine left over. He redeems with abundance. And at Cana, he covers the shame of a bride and a groom. He washes it. And at the cross, he covers and washes our shame. I think about our toddler, Jonah, who's 18 months old. And he's beginning, like, have you ever seen, like, I don't know, a baby from a year to 18 months eat? They just mess everywhere, all over their faces, all over their hands, all over their clothes. And I thought going into parenthood that I hate getting food on me. It's maybe for all of us that's true, but it's a pet peeve of mine. If I just accidentally, spill some ketchup on me or a drink, I hate it. It ruins my day. And so I thought, what am I going to do with the baby who is so messy and sticky and wants food all the time, when I have to pick him up off the dinner table to go wash his hands or wipe his hands? And if you know anything about toddlers, they throw fits when you try to clean them. But now Jonah is kind of starting to also feel like, okay, my hands are kind of dirty, and he'll kind of hold them up and start kind of whining and crying like, daddy, daddy. And I know that I need to wash them, and so I just pick him up and I say, it's okay, nothing to worry about. We'll wash it off. We'll wash it off. And when he gets, the handprint of yogurt on my shoulder, or accidentally wipes his face on my arm, I think, doesn't matter. I can wash it. I'd rather hold my kid. I think this is this moment in Cana that Jesus is telling us, I am the purification. I am covering the shame, the humiliation of this moment at this wedding. But even deeper, I'm covering the shame of sin, the humiliation of sin. And at the cross, he covers it. With his death, with his blood poured out, he covers it and covers us. And so I can't help but think again about the enormous painting in the Louvre. It's 32 feet wide, 22 feet tall. It's grand, it's dramatic. Renaissance artists painting Jesus into their own world, their own clothes, their own architecture. It's breathtaking if you get to see it. But it doesn't hold a candle to what Jesus points us toward. In this story of John, when we read it now, we can't help but think about Revelation 19:7-9, where John, the same author of this gospel, also speaks of another wedding, the wedding supper of the Lamb. And the scripture says this: let us rejoice and exult and give him the glory, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his bride has made herself ready. It was granted her to clothe herself with fine linen, bright and pure, for the fine linen is the righteous deeds of the saints. And the angel said to me, write this: blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. The whole story ends in a wedding. And John kind of begins with a wedding. But there's a future feast, a greater celebration, a day when every tear is wiped away, when shame is no more, when redemption is complete. We cannot overlook that at Cana, at the wedding, the master of the feast says, you have saved the best wine until now. But that line echoes forward. It pulls us to the future. The love of Jesus gives us hope. That whatever hardship you're in, whatever miracle you're waiting on, whatever healing you're hoping for in your body, whatever family, relationship, redemption you're waiting for, however difficult obedience feels today if he told you to do something, whatever part of your life feels incomplete, exposed, or in need of redemption. The invitation at the wedding at Cana is to taste and see that the Lord is good. Taste this new wine. The one who turned water into wine, the one who completes what is lacking, the one who covers our shame with abundant grace and abundant love. He is among us. And for you and me, he has saved the best for the end. That line echoes forward It pulls us to the future. Whatever hardship you're in, whatever miracle you're waiting on, whatever healing in your body, in your soul, in your emotions you're waiting on, or a family relationship redemption that you've been asking God for, or however difficult obedience feels right now, it's hard to obey. Whatever part of your life feels incomplete or exposed or in need of redemption, maybe there's shame or sin that Jesus wants to cover, wants to pour out that new wine over. The invitation of the wedding at Cana is to taste and see that the Lord is good. The one who turned water into wine, the one whose nature it is to give and to provide. The one who completes what is lacking, the one who covers shame with abundance. He is among us. He has saved the best for the end. That is the hope of the love of Jesus. When you encounter Jesus, you can trust the nature of a loving God who knows how to provide, who knows how to complete things in your life, and who knows how to redeem and cover our shame. That line echoes forward. It pulls us into the future. Whatever hardship you're in, whatever miracle you're waiting on, maybe it's healing in your body, healing in your emotions, healing in a family relationship. Maybe it's a miracle in your finances. Or however difficult obedience feels right now. Maybe he told you to do something and it's just really hard to do it. Or whatever part of your life feels incomplete, exposed, or full of shame, or in need of redemption. The invitation in this scene at the wedding at Cana is to taste and see that the Lord is good. The one who turned water into wine, the one who completes what is lacking, the one who covers our shame with abundant grace. He is among us, and he has saved the best for the end. We have hope in him. We can trust his nature. As followers of Jesus, we can trust his love. All it takes is a willingness to say yes, to have an encounter with Jesus. For those of us who are new in the faith, or we've been walking with Jesus for 70 years and everything in between, the encounters are for all of us, and they're for every day to understand that he is good, that he is love, that he is worthy of our trust, worthy of our obedience. And we get to see throughout the course of our lives him meet our needs, cover our shame, and redeem us with so much abundance. And that's my prayer for us this morning, that we would experience in encountering Jesus, his love, his abundant love poured out like wine on all of us.